Hello friends, I'm here in Hamden, Maine, USA at Locust Grove Cemetery, and sometimes there's very little to go off on old records but a person's name and maybe a few census records, and you kind of have to work to put facts together to kind of create a story to figure out what happened with their life. So this is the headstone of Samuel Hardy. Samuel Hardy was born in 1779 in Buxton, Maine, and he is in a few of the censuses here in Hamden. But prior to 1850, the censuses really didn't have a lot of information. It would show how many people were in a house, and the way it was set up is it would show a column for males under 5 or females under 5, and then males under 10, females under 10, all the way up to around 80 years old. And it would just show how many were in the house, and the only names it would list would be the actual name of the head of the household. It wouldn't give the names for children or wives or even other adults, just how many were in the house. And the really old censuses, like around 1800 or 1810, 1820, would just list the head of the house as well as how many cattle or pigs that he had, so even less. The last census that Samuel Hardy appears in is 1840, and it just says he's the head of the house. There's one female living in the house over the age of 60. Samuel was over the age of 60. And then also a son that was over the age of 35 and one that was over the age of 30. Or it just listed it as a male. So in the 1850 census, there is a Samuel Hardy listed in Hamden, but he's only 35 years old. In the same household is an Alva Hardy, listed at age 30 years old, so much younger than this Samuel would have been. And it also lists a woman named Eunice Hardy, which lines up to what we know of Samuel Hardy Sr. He married a Eunice Harding, who became Eunice Hardy. So she outlived him. So I knew he had to have died somewhere between 1840 and the last census he appeared in, and in 1850, where he didn't appear with his wife and inferred sons in the 1850 census. So I did come across this stone the last time I was here a few days ago, and I couldn't quite make out the date of death. But now that it's broad daylight instead of dusk, I can read it pretty clearly. And I wasn't sure if it was Samuel Jr. or Sr., but there were some clues, because it says died December 31st. It actually says of 1845, but I couldn't read that clearly the other day, age 66. So if it was Samuel Jr., who was 35 at the 1850 census, he would have been born around 1815, which means he would have died in the 1880s. And this style of stone had sort of fallen out of favor by the late 1800s. This is more along the lines of what you would see in the 1830s or 1840s. So I figured it was probably Samuel Sr. And because it says December 31st, the last day of 1845, if we subtract that 66 years, we get 1779, which is the known year of Samuel Hardy's birth. Now, what's really interesting is there's some old records of people that walked cemeteries much like I do, except I use Find a Grave because I can take pictures on Find a Grave. But back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, there's two known collections of a lot of the cemeteries in Maine that were just written down either from old records or from people walking the cemeteries. One is the Nathan Hale collection. Nathan Hale, of course, coincidentally being one of our founding fathers, but the Nathan Hale Cemetery collection was just named after the head of that research team, not the actual founding father. Another one's called the Faline Hutton Cemetery collection. Same idea. They would make records from old sexton records or walking the cemeteries. This stone is actually listed in one of those collections, and it's on the website for MOCA, Maine Old Cemetery Association, of which I'm a member. But it just says Samuel Hardy, and it says he doesn't have a stone, but obviously I'm standing right in front of this stone. I'm not really sure how it was missed because it's pretty prominent next to this family obelisk over here. Not the Hardy family, but right next to it. And in that same record, it says Samuel Hardy from Sexton Records, no stone. Also see Andrew Springer lot. So he is buried next to the Andrew Springer lot. There's Andrew Springer, a veteran of the Civil War. And there is Samuel Hardy Sr. So I don't know how this was missed unless they were just going by the Sexton's books and didn't actually walk the cemetery. Nobody had added it to find a grave. Either I did. So Samuel Hardy Sr. died December 31st, 1845, age 66. Born 1779. Husband of Eunice Hardy, and likely father of Samuel Hardy Jr. and Alva Hardy. So pretty interesting that he does have that stone. And I'm glad I could add him to find a grave so future generations can see that he existed. And I put that he is actually in the Andrew Springer lot, so it's relatively easy to find. It's actually not very far from the front of the cemetery and the road.